So, the dust has settled. The Grand Theft Auto 6 reveal has officially happened. It's a game announcement trailer that rocked the world, it broke records, so let's do what we often do here. Compare stuff. Even though it's just a cinematic style reveal trailer, there's plenty to look at and contrast with the older Grand Theft Auto games. Some of it obvious, some of it weird, I don't know, we're just having fun. We got a lot to talk about, so let's just jump in. Now, first and foremost, the elephant in the room, gotta note that the trailer record is the first obvious thing. The Grand Theft Auto 5 trailer racked up 100 million views on YouTube, but that was over the course of like the decade since it's been out. The Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer, the first one, trailer 1, on the Rockstar Games YouTube channel, already crossed 101 million views in the 2 days since it was out. It broke Mr. Beast's record of like the fastest viewed YouTube video in 24 hours. All of that is crazy. And now the first Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer is up to 140 million views. More than any other Grand Theft Auto game trailer before that, more than any other game trailer by a mile, and definitely in the annals of history of YouTube. And that's already a huge milestone right there, but we're not even counting all the other trailer views this has gotten in other places, like on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. The amount of different channels that have uploaded, GameSpot, the major outlets, clip channels. This thing probably has an even greater reach or greater impact than we even realize. So views and numbers aside, I think the biggest thing to point out if we're comparing Grand Theft Auto 6 versus all the other previous Grand Theft Auto games, the real biggest acknowledgement, the biggest difference is the cultural impact. This is the biggest splash a Grand Theft Auto has ever made. Granted, Grand Theft Auto has been famous, notorious since the early days. In Grand Theft Auto 3 times, of course, it made news and headlines for freaking out parents because it was so violent and politicians were trying to ban it, all of that stuff. But this is different. Gaming is way bigger than it was in 2001, and I think the greatest example or evidence of that is just the big impact of this trailer. We've come a long way, gamers. My grandma asked me what the deal was with this. She heard about how big of a deal it was on the news, and she was like, hey, what's with that new game? But of course, I told her it's a game where you murder pedestrians. She loved that, believe me. Anyway, in terms of comparisons, besides the big obvious ones well, the old Grand Theft Auto games were top down, and now this one isn't. I mean, it's been like that for a while. No, I think the thing to really point out that this is a new look at a completely new state. Not a new city, because of course we visited Vice City before, but now it's the entire state of Leonida. This is like a fictional or fake Florida. The Grand Theft Auto games since 3 have really been flip-flopping around between the same cities that we know, but giving new looks on them. But while we have had multiple games in Vice City, we never got a look at the surrounding state, the surrounding areas, and presumably we're getting that with this. We're getting Vice City and the surrounding regions. With Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, it was somewhat familiar because we had gotten multiple cities and the surrounding area in San Andreas, and then we once again got a big city and the surrounding areas. So we were already used to that state, that region. But with Vice City, all we got was the city. And now with Grand Theft Auto 6, we're getting the city and the surrounding Florida, which looks like it's gonna bring a lot of variety. We've already talked this to death, but just the different biomes, the swamps, the cities, the suburbs, the beaches, the tropical areas, you name it. Now, one other thing I think is interesting is the animals. Now, other Grand Theft Auto games have had animals. Grand Theft Auto 5 had a bunch of wildlife, but what I'm curious to see here with this one is the implied interaction with said animals. In Grand Theft Auto 5, unless you're using mods or something, you didn't get a lot of fun animal action or interaction in the city, in the main areas of the game. You kind of had to go out of your way to find that stuff. Here, I mean, we see Facebook or YouTube or Instagram reel videos of people dealing with crocodiles or alligators, whatever, I don't know, animals, directly in the city, in people's backyards, which makes me wonder if we're gonna have some weird, fun, zany antics with animals, specifically from a gameplay perspective. Are you gonna be able to let alligators loose on people? Is that something you're just gonna have to worry about, like an alligator coming to kill you? Does that happen in Florida? I don't know. I've read about it, so who knows? But I also wonder how that will translate to the water, because we get quick looks at dolphins, sharks. We've seen sharks in Grand Theft Auto games before, but with the dolphins and stuff, can we pet them? Can we swim with them? Will they follow our boats? I'd love to see cool little interactions like that. Now, another big comparison is traffic density. Of course, this is just a trailer. It seems like it's in-game, but it's not actual gameplay, so we don't know if the areas are going to be this dense, but the Vice City Strip, those shots look shockingly dense. When you look at the old strip in Vice City, it is like night and day. It doesn't even look like you can drive. It looks like a parking lot in this new game, which is really cool and really realistic. But I wonder how that's gonna go from a gameplay standpoint. Is it just gonna be dead stop traffic there? How are you gonna deal with that? That's very different for a Grand Theft Auto game, or really an open world game, and we'd love to see how that actually goes down. And I really hope that the actual game itself, when it comes to gameplay, is that dense. I'd even go as far as to say that like a lot of the highway stuff and like there are toll booths and stuff, a lot of that just looks and feels a little bit more real. The flow of traffic, stuff like that. We've of course seen highways and traffic in Grand Theft Auto games before, but hopefully now with the improvement in graphics, physics, and artificial intelligence, drivers and traffic and stuff will behave more realistically. I mean, that's just what we're hoping from the trailer, from what we can see. But yeah, speaking of that, vehicles once again are different spins on real world cars. They don't use the actual branding, but you've always had representations or fairly close representations of real world cars. But what I have noticed is that in the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer, it seems like they're going a little bit harder on that. Like they're leaning much closer to the real life counterpart of these cars. We've seen Chargers, Challengers, Chrysler 300 like cars before, but in Grand Theft Auto 6, like if you look side by side to the real cars, they look very, very close to the real thing, just like without the logo or the badge on the hood. Will the car company sue them? I don't know. Rockstar has more money than God at this point, so who knows? Another thing, small observation, but the mud. We get quick looks at the Hillbilly Mud Club and, you know, some redneck stuff going down and the swamp life, so to speak. Muddy terrain isn't something that we've seen in a Grand Theft Auto game, really because it was the technology prohibiting it, but I'm curious to see how this is going to go down. I don't know if it's going to be like Snow Runner or Mud Runner, like that technically detailed, but getting stuck in the mud in a Grand Theft Auto game could be pretty cool. We've seen mud or dirt in Grand Theft Auto games before, obviously. I definitely remember like a scene or something of Trevor rolling around in the mud, but just one shot from this trailer makes it look like it's going to be much more of a thing here. Also, speaking of the mud and swampland type stuff, the airboat or fan boat is cool to see making a return. This was actually a vehicle in, I believe, San Andreas and Vice City stories, so to see it here and in a setting where it really truly makes sense is nice. Then of course there's a presence of social media. Now Grand Theft Auto 3, the earlier games didn't really have social media, but it was really pioneered big time in Grand Theft Auto 5. It was actually pretty close to the forefront of some of the story moments. Of course, you had the iFruit phone, which was like a spoof on the Apple iPhone, and then you had Life Invader, which was like Facebook, and Bleeder was Twitter. That stuff was prominent in the game, but it wasn't necessarily featured in the marketing or the trailers, but here it's at the forefront. And I'd argue it's specifically because this is how our culture is now. Everything is online, everything is captured in video, everybody has a phone, and the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer does not skirt around that. A lot of the footage we see here, a lot of the scenes in the trailer are from like Instagram Reel or TikTok like things. We don't know what they're going to be called. It's probably going to be like Talk, or I don't know. I'm not even funny enough to come up with something like that. But yeah, I'm curious to see how it actually ties into the gameplay and the storytelling. Grand Theft Auto 5, of course, had a mission where you go to Life Invader and, you know, you pull out your phone a lot. But if they can make it truly feel like a real thing here and a useful thing to the gameplay somehow without it just being a tedious, annoying thing where people are just calling you all the time, I think it could be interesting. On the more mundane side of things, I'm curious to see how much of like a real larger state we're actually going to see here, because at about 1 minute into the trailer, you see a sign on the right, which looks to me like very much a kind of shopping center sign, a strip mall sign. And out into further regions, Grand Theft Auto 5 kind of had little strip malls, but they didn't quite feel realistic. No Grand Theft Auto game has ever really featured something like this. Like if they could feature like a shopping mall or like an outlets type of thing that really feels real. I mean, there was a mall in Vice City, but there's just kind of like a place where you go to shoot people. I think Grand Theft Auto 6, more than any other game in the series, is going to show off some of the more mundane aspects of American life and, you know, surrounding suburbia. Also, the big thing is the protagonist. Of course, everybody's been talking about Lucia and Jason, which his name is rumored to be. It's the first Grand Theft Auto game with a dual protagonist type thing. Now, don't get it twisted, of course, Grand Theft Auto 5 had 3 characters you swap between, but the rest mostly centered around one. This is like a 2-person dynamic that we're curious to see how it actually goes down. We're guessing that you can play as both of them, but we still don't know for sure. That would be very cool. That would be very new. new, and if you can play as both, it's significant because it's the first time you play as a female protagonist in a Grand Theft Auto game. But of course, if we are comparing things like that, anything here, the graphics are the obvious one. Like I said at the start, the original Grand Theft Auto games were top down. Grand Theft Auto 3, I mean, Claude, like the dude's face, you know, he looked like a Lego brick. No offense to him, but the graphical jump here, even where we're not seeing moment-to-moment gameplay, still is absolutely incredible. Look at this even compared to the first Grand Theft Auto 5 trailer, which was also cinematic, mood setting, you know, a little bit more like a cutscene type thing. It already looks leagues bigger than that. You know, city shots, you know, with busy streets look more dense here, of course, but also some of the shots out in the mountains, out in the wilderness, you know, the guys on the farm with the plane flying by, all that doesn't look anywhere near as good as anything we've seen in the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. Detail, of course, characters more lifelike, of course, but a lot of it I think is down to the lighting, the color palette, the tone, all that stuff they have here. This game is embracing the sun-drenched Vice City style, but of course, in modern times. It's not the flashy 80s neon stuff, but it is still very much a city or a region of sunsets and beautiful water. Of course, like any great area in America, you know, drive away from the water for a little bit and you'll find some weird stuff. And 6 definitely seems like it's gonna reflect that. But those were just some fun comparisons, some things we wanted to point out. Honestly, we just wanted a cool excuse to show gameplay footage of the old Grand Theft Auto games and then show some looks at the new stuff. It's fun to contrast, think about how far we've come in terms of like the world of video games. And knowing that Grand Theft Auto 6 isn't coming for a while, we can really only go up from here. When the game actually comes out or when we see gameplay, that's when the real comparisons begin. But for now, let us know what you think. Just think about the old games versus this, where we're at now, or just compare some of the original debut trailers to this new debut trailer. There's a lot different, a lot to really think about, so let us know in the comments any observations you have, because the comments have already been filled with some pretty interesting stuff about this series, so let us know in the comments. But if you like talking games with us every day, clicking the like button helps us. Thank you. That's all we need. We really appreciate it. But also subscribe if you're new, because we put out videos every single day. But either way, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.